Hello everyone and welcome to another Fallout 76 video. This is the second part in my two-part series about the pros and cons of building in Fallout 76. I've played the game a lot more since the last video and had some time to test out more glitches and general building mechanics, so I'll be talking about that. And if you haven't seen the first one, I'll leave a link in the description and at the end of this video so you can go check that out too. But first, I would like to give a quick shout out to one of my patrons, Mark Cunningham. Thank you so much for supporting my channel. It means a lot to me. You are the best. Now, before I talk about the building mechanics and glitches, I did want to take a moment to address some misunderstandings from the last video. I won't spend a lot of time on it, but I feel it needed addressing. A lot of people wholeheartedly disagreed with my opinion about locked items in the last video, and that's totally fine. Everyone has their own opinion. Some people really liked the fact that items are locked, while others didn't. There's nothing wrong with having differences in opinion. However, most of the people who disagreed with me seemed to have missed the points I was trying to make. All they heard was that I didn't like that most things were locked, and then they completely ignored everything else I said, and then accused me of whining and wanting everything from the start, and why don't they just unlock all weapons and perk cards from the start while they're at it and let us start the game at level 50. And obviously that is not at all what I was saying. So apparently I wasn't very clear in expressing my opinion. I never said that I wanted all the items to be unlocked from the start, nor would I want that. It's not even like that in Fallout 4. I was simply frustrated with how they implemented the system. Like I said in my previous video, I do agree that some items should be locked. I think that advanced equipment like water purifiers and generators and crafting benches and things like that should be locked at the start. I even think that having all the new items, those being the ones that weren't also in Fallout 4, they should be locked. However, I think that the way it's done could be better than what we see right now, that's all. Some people suggested that so many items are locked because it's the beta, and once the beta is over, they'll unlock them. This may be true, and it may not be. Bethesda did say the beta would be the full game, so I assume that means nothing would be off limits, but we'll have to wait and see. The fact that there are plans that you have to find to unlock items kind of tells me that this isn't the case, that the items will be locked after the beta, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Most people pointed out to me that they made it this way to encourage people to explore and find the plans, and I get that. It's an online game, and online games need stuff to fill them up. I'm not disputing that, and I like that they put stuff out there for us to find. And I know that you can get some plans for completing quests, and I know that the main quest gives you a bunch of plans at the start. I mean, seriously, you guys, I've played the start of the main quest. I was just using those items as examples. In my last video, I talked about how it would be more interesting, at least to me, if the locked items weren't visible in the build menu until you unlocked them, like the Picket Fences magazines in Fallout 4. Or maybe you could unlock some of the items through perks, or maybe some are level locked. I don't mind looking for some plans. What I mind is that almost all the items are locked this way, and the only way to unlock them is to find or buy the plan and occasionally receive one as a quest reward. I just think it would be more interesting if there were other ways to unlock some of the items for different play styles, that's all, because not everybody wants to go do all the quests, and not everybody has enough money to buy the plans from vendors. I still haven't had enough money to buy plans from vendors yet. I've seen a few, not very many, like maybe 2 or 3 at different vendors, but I've never been able to afford any. So it's not a bad concept. I just think it could be improved to be a little bit more flexible for different play styles, because it does limit you to a certain style of play. It forces you to go questing and doing a lot of questing and a lot of exploring. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I mean, obviously you want to go questing and you want to explore, but I do know a lot of people who want to spend most of their time building. And if there were other ways to unlock the plans, like through leveling or other ways, I just think it would be more flexible, that's all. I'm not complaining that everything's locked, and I'm sorry if I wasn't clear on that. And you also have to understand that I am approaching this game as a content creator, and as a creator who makes Fallout builds as the main content of my channel, it's frustrating to me that I won't be able to make that content until after I've invested hours upon hours of time into the game. I want to be able to bring you guys new content as soon as possible, and finding out that I won't be able to do that was disheartening, I'm not gonna lie. But anyway, I know that most people playing the game aren't content creators, so they'll think different about it, and that's okay. But I just wanted to be honest with you guys so that you can understand where I'm coming from. Anyway, so that's all I'm going to say about it, and I hope that I was able to clear up some of the misunderstanding. Now let's get into the rest of the pros and cons of the camp system. So I'm going to start off with some good news. The rug glitch has the potential of working. I don't have rugs unlocked yet, so I couldn't test it fully, but I used a table instead. I placed a radio on a table and was able to glitch it into the wall of my cabin. The radio couldn't hang off the edge of the table very far before it turned red, so I couldn't glitch it very far, but it did work. And rugs will probably work even better because they're on the ground and you can place items on the very corners of them, so that's good news, isn't it? At least one of the glitches in Fallout 4 also works in 76. The last of the glitches that I had to test was the gun storage glitch to increase the build budget. However, since you can't drop loose items on the ground in Fallout 76, this glitch is impossible to perform since you can't drop guns. And again, they do this to prevent people from crashing the servers by dropping hundreds of items all at the same time. So I'm pretty sure this will not change in the future. I tested a bunch of other building mechanics with mixed results. First off, in the last video, I had mentioned how you can lock your doors with a key so other players can't get into your buildings. Well, since then, I tested this with another player who was not on my team at the time, and even though the door was locked, he could still open it. So I'm thinking this is probably a bug, or else I'm just using locks wrong, I don't know. But I also discovered that one key will lock all the doors in your camp at the same time. When I locked the door on my cabin, the door on my shed was also locked. When you open a door that is locked, it will unlock it, so you have to remember to lock it again before you leave. I noticed that in Fallout 76, when in build mode, you can't pick up closed doors to walk through them like you can in Fallout 4. This is because when you pick up an item in build mode in Fallout 76, the item doesn't actually move until you place it somewhere else. So if you pick up the door, it's technically still there, thus you can't walk through. Luckily, it's very quick to close and reopen the build menu, so it's not as much of a pain like it is in Fallout 4. One change from Fallout 4 that I find very limiting was the fact that structures must be built on foundations. So that means that pretty much all building pieces besides foundations can't be placed directly onto the ground. The floor piece is called an upper floor piece and cannot be placed on the ground. As of right now, I don't even know where it can be placed because I couldn't get it to snap to walls or ceilings either. I'll have to work with it some more to try and figure it out. Walls and stairs also cannot be placed directly onto the ground. They must snap to a foundation piece. Stairs won't even snap to roof pieces, at least I couldn't get them to. If you want to build a fence around your settlement, you absolutely must build on perfectly flat ground, which is very hard to do in West Virginia because you cannot build fences on a slope. And I'm talking perfectly flat. I tried building a fence on what looked like flat ground to me, but apparently it was bumpy enough to cause the fence to float just enough that I couldn't place it. And the fences don't sink into the ground, so it's extremely hard to position them. I really think they should sink into the ground. You could build a row of foundations and snap the fences to them, but that does use up a lot more resources and build budget. When I tried it, it used up all the budget I had left after building a cabin, and I couldn't even build the fences all the way around my camp area. And also, the foundations don't sink all the way to ground level, especially if you're building on a slope, so you'll need to build stairs to get up and down, although I wasn't able to build stairs in my camp because something invisible was interfering with the placement. And that's another thing. In Fallout 76, green doesn't mean you can place it. Red definitely means you can't, but sometimes you can't place items even when they're green. If there's an obstruction, it might not turn red if it's not like 100% obstructing it. If it's just like a little corner of something is poking into your item that you're trying to place, it'll stay green, but then it'll give you a notice that says it can't be placed because there's an obstruction. So I found that really frustrating, and it seems like the item collision is a lot bigger of an area, so that you get items colliding a lot farther away from each other than in Fallout 4. So I've been discovering it very hard to place items in Fallout 76. And also, items do not float in Fallout 76, or at least it doesn't allow them to. It literally will not allow items to float. So if you build something on top of something else, it won't let you scrap or store the lower item until you scrap or store the top one. And you also can't build items if half of it is not touching the ground, or sometimes even more than half of it. If even the corner is poking out, sometimes it won't let you build it. Like, I was trying to build a fence, and it started going off the edge of a slope, and even though the fence one of the pieces that I was trying to build could snap on to the other one, so it was connected, it wasn't touching the ground, so it wouldn't place. Items have to be touching the ground. I wonder if that has something to do with the blueprinting feature. Perhaps floating items can't be included in the blueprint for some reason, so they limit the placement to ensure that all items get blueprinted when you move your camp. This is just a theory of mine, but I can't think of any other reasons why they would add these restrictions. Your camp unit actually has a weight limit. Yes, it's true. It can hold up to 400 pounds of stuff. And after that, you can't place any more items into it. And anyone who's a hoarder in Fallout 4 knows that 400 pounds of loot is not nearly enough. You use up that space so quickly. Now, there is a rumor going around that this limit is for the beta only, and once the game launches, the limit will go up to 1,000 pounds. But still, that's not much when it comes to building supplies. And that is just a rumor. Hopefully a true one, but yeah, don't take my word for it. And you know, after you use up that space and you get over encumbered, you can't put any of it into your stash until you use some of that stuff for building or crafting. And then when you're in the middle of a huge quest and don't have time or the ability to pause and build or craft, like I was when it happened to me, it can be pretty frustrating, because then you can't loot anything else. If you're over encumbered and your stash is over encumbered, you're screwed pretty much until you use up some of the stuff or drop things. And also, if you like to collect unique weapons and armor or other collectibles, the only safe place to store them, other than in your own inventory, is in your stash. And some of those things can be pretty heavy, so if you fill up your stash with heavy weapons and armor, you won't have a lot of room left for crafting materials. And there is also a theory that any built items that you built in your camp, like buildings and stuff, that you then store, not scrap, but store back into your camp unit, there's a theory that those also contribute towards the weight of your stash. This hasn't been proven yet as of the making of this video, but it does make sense, so that's another thing to consider when building. Now, I'm not sure why they put a limit on it like that, but it would be nice if it was bigger. Probably the limit has to do with server storage, I'm guessing. Yeah, but it would be nice if it was bigger for us hoarders out there. Now, someone asked me if it's possible to use the blueprinting feature as a way to move and glitch items, similar to the pillar glitch. They saw in a previous video of mine that a turret that was part of my blueprinted camp was floating, and wondered if I could place that turret in the air or inside another object. I tested this, and the answer is no, unfortunately. If any part of your camp is floating, like I mentioned before, it won't let you place it down. And you also can't place it down if any part of your camp is colliding with existing objects. I actually found it very difficult to place camps that I had built in one location to place them in a different location, because even if the terrain is slightly different, it's very hard to place them back down again. One question that we've all probably had about the camp system: can you have more than one camp at a time? The answer to this is no. If you build a camp, then place your camp unit down in another location, your old camp will be blueprinted and packed up. You can place it down in your new location, or you can build something new. But you can only have one camp active at a time. Someone else asked me, how do you pick up a camp? Well, you don't actually pick up your camp after you drop it for the first time. After that, you can just move it from one place to another. So if you drop your camp for any reason, whether to build something or just to store some junk in it, you have to leave it there until you move it to another location. And you move it by opening your Pip-Boy and choosing the option to move your camp. Just remember, if you drop your camp somewhere, it will no longer be in its old location, nor will any of the items that you built there. So, move with caution. No one can access your camp's inventory but you. However, your teammates can activate the build menu in your camp and build items in it. When they build something in your camp, it will use materials from their inventory, not from your camp's inventory, so you don't have to worry about your friends using up all your supplies. Your teammates cannot move or scrap any of the items that you built in your camp, only the items that they built. However, you can move and scrap the items that they build in your camp. Basically, if it's in your camp, you own it, no matter who builds it. Now, if your friend has not unlocked certain building plans that you have, but really needs something in his camp, like for instance a water pump or a crafting bench, and you don't have an extra plan to give him, you can build that item in his camp, and he will then be able to use it as his own. He can store it in his own camp inventory, and even move the camp around, and it will stay with him. He won't be able to build more until he finds his own plans, of course, but at least your gift can tide him over in the meantime. Someone asked me if other people can take stuff out of normal containers that you build in your camp that aren't your stash box. Well, the simple answer is no. But that's because you can't build normal containers in your camps. Every container that you can build is a version of your stash. All of them are cloud storage, so it doesn't really matter what kind you use or how many, they all go to the same place. So any storage you build is safe because only you can access your stash from it. If someone else accesses the container you built, they will see their own things, not yours. And the last thing that I want to mention here is that in my last video, I mentioned that I couldn't see any way to repair damaged built items. But since then, I did notice a repair all option when you look at the camp unit itself. I wasn't able to use this feature because at the time I didn't have any damaged items. I let my friend, who was not on my team with me, try to damage my house with his weapons, but it did nothing. It's possible that is because he was in passive mode at the time, and we didn't discover it until much later, because you are supposed to be able to damage other players' structures. Anyway, you guys, that is all the things I had time to test up to this point. As of the making of this video, there are 2 more beta sessions scheduled until the release, and I think I will just enjoy playing the game and exploring until then. There are still a lot more things to test and a lot more videos to make, but I will be doing that after the game's release since it will be so much easier to do without the time limit. I think the next video that I want to try to make is one about PvP, and I will be working on that one in the coming week. I hope you found this video informative, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe for more Fallout 76 videos in the very near future. If you would like to help support my channel, you can do that by following the links in the description to my Patreon and Ko-fi pages. Also, I invite you to join Dova's Wasteland, my community Discord, where you can chat with my other subscribers, share your thoughts, your screenshots, and your gamer tags to meet up with people in Fallout 76. The link for that is also in the description. I hope to see you over there. Until then, remember guys, play safe, play nice, and have fun. Bye.